Are. So we are beginning. Welcome, welcome, everyone. This is our wonderful day once a week where we get to join together in community, which we love because it's so important these days, and to join with Minu, who is going to bring us some very powerful transmissions. And we are going to go kind of right into it. She's going to allow to sort of explain, set the groundwork. And so I think I shall. She's way better at it than me, so I'm going to turn it over. And guys, in case anyone doesn't know, I'm Sunny Chase, and I do host this event periodically over the year, and I'm very grateful to be here today. And I'm excited to learn how to deal and what fear really is and all of the aspects of fear because it is something that we have affecting quite a bit of our planet Earth at this point. So I'm very much grateful to feel through what it really is, and Minu is the person to do that for us. So Minu, if I may hand it over to you.
Thank you, Sunny. Thank you. And again, if there are questions, put them in the chat. Sunny, if you have got something showing up for you, just interrupt. It's all good. Okay, and we can cover the points as we go along.
Very good, very good.
So, this is a part of the Age of Brilliance portals, and it is a portal for the transmutation of fear. So, I thought today let's begin with understanding transmutation itself. Um, and then go into the transmutation pathways. So, transmutation means turning one state of energy into a higher, clearer, more powerful state. And in this transmission, it means that fear is not suppressed, denied, managed, or escaped. It is seen, acknowledged, accepted, and that transforms it. So it's transformed until the hidden energy that is trapped inside fear returns back to us as brilliance, freedom, movement, and magnificence. So, just a repetition about transmutation means turning one state of energy into a higher, clearer, more powerful state. And that's what we are working with in the context of fear today. So, at its deepest level, what I mean here is that fear is the distortion. Transmutation is a return to truth. Fear says, something is wrong, I'm unsafe, I must shrink. Transmutation says, let me see what's real. Let me reclaim my energy. Let me return to choice. So, the transmutation of fear itself is quite sacred. And what we are talking about in this transmission, as the portal of transmutation of fear opens up, we are in the process and we are very close. We are on the runway still. So we're going through the process. So transmutation of fear as a sacred process. And here's what happens there, where fear becomes focus. Fear is false expectations appearing real, and you start focusing on what is real. Stagnation becomes freshness. Delay becomes fast-track movement. Numbness becomes aliveness. Distortion becomes truth. Helplessness becomes choice. Suppression becomes activation. Instability becomes anchoring, force becomes allowing, fragmentation becomes restoration, surviving becomes regenerative results, and collapse becomes resurgence. Those are the transmutations that we are going through. And if I was to summarize all of this in one line, transmutation is the miracle of taking what once diminished us and allowing it to become the very doorway through which our brilliance returns. So, transmutation itself is this doorway that returns us to our brilliance. So, last week we started the work on this particular portal of transmutation of fear. We talked about focus as a first transmutation, which is all about returning to the energy of what's real. Fear, as false expectations appearing real, scatters. Focus actually gathers. False expectations appearing real, fear creates thousands of imaginary futures. Focus returns you to this moment. And it is in the moment that your power actually exists. This particular transmutation impacts leaders overwhelmed by possibilities, or leaders overwhelmed per se, people overwhelmed, parents fearing the future, founder frozen by uncertainty, the human replaying scenarios that have not happened. For all of us who are exhausted by carrying futures that don't exist. And this is where I talked about the power tool of acknowledgement last week. And then how you return back to fact. And from that fact, focus returns and fear loses its food. The food of fear are these imaginary futures. When you return to the moment and focus on there, the food supply to fear stops. We looked at freshness as the second transmutation. And what is freshness in the context of transmutation of fear? It is the ending of the psychological repetition. Fear makes people relive old realities inside new moments. And freshness allows life to breathe again. It's important because a lot of the time we as humans don't respond to the moment. We are probably the only species on this planet that does that. We respond to memories. And memories, because they are just memories, they don't have to be memories of the past. They could be imaginary futures that we have imagined so much that they also have got, ingrained as a memory. Freshness interrupts the inherited emotional momentum. And it is this freshness that allows the miracles to enter. It impacts those that are stuck in old heartbreaks, those that are expecting betrayal before connection, those that are repeating old collapses, be it business, be it personal, those that are entering, taking that next step, carrying yesterday's emotional residue. Again, acknowledgement is the power tool for this. Now, let's go to the third one. We focus, zoom in on the third transmutation. Third transmutation is fast track. I was like, seriously, I mean, fear, fast track, I mean, they don't even go together. So let's get up close and personal with fast track as the transmutation. Fast track, what is fast track? It's accelerated coherence. Fear delays, brilliance moves. Not recklessly, it doesn't move us impulsively. The movement is clear, consistent, precise. And actually, when you are in the moment, there's something that many of you heard me say a lot, which is, you know, take the next step next. When you're in an imagined future that you've taken a step forward, you land up literally being intertwined by this energy of these imaginary futures. And some of these imagined futures bring a lightness of being. And those are the ones you anchor in your current reality. There are others that stop you from doing what you're doing now. And they become the false expectations appearing real with that energy signature of fear as we've known it. So why is it important to really walk through this transmutation? Because fear creates emotional traffic. And sometimes the buildup is so strong that we are stuck in an emotional traffic jam. Humans have a tendency to overprocess, overanalyze, overweight for the right moment. Fast track, fast track restores movement, and that forward movement energy then completely gets into the rhythm of how the planet is moving, how our solar system is moving. And then everything starts to move forward. Who is this particular transmutation for? The transmutation of fear to fast track. It is for perfectionists, for procrastinators, for overthinkers, those that are constantly waiting to feel ready. It is for them. And you may be fast track in some area and in another. You may have be the ostrich, with your blinker, with your head in the sand. So just look where you may not be utilizing the power of this fast track. Given that fear is so powerful and it very rapidly spreads across all of the 123 trillion cells, and if you then transmutate it to fast track, every area of your life fast tracks. How do you do this? You acknowledge. Again, acknowledgement, I cannot emphasize enough. Acknowledgement is the most powerful tool when dealing with fear. And what are you acknowledging here so that you have the freedom to fast track? Acknowledge I have been delaying life. And you may not be doing this in every area, but it may be in some that you are. I made uncertainty dangerous. I postponed my brilliance until everything was perfect. You choose one regenerative action choice. Choose it and take action on it immediately. It is movement that creates momentum. And the speed of brilliance begins the moment fear stops negotiating with destiny. Destiny becomes your reality as you take the next step next. And the more you laden it with false expectations that are appearing real, you become further and further away from it. And this whole cycle of birth and rebirth continues. As some of you have heard me say this previously, I'm a firm believer that all of us have the capability and capacity for us to have this birth be the last one that we have as a human. You don't have to be stuck in this cycle. And living in the moment, living out the moment, enables that to happen. And fear, the moment you transmutate it to fast track, you are in the knowingness of your destiny, the reality of your destiny, the ultimate destiny, which is really the destination of our soul being, being merged with the divine. There's a knowingness that the soul being itself is the divine. The main thing is, let's not have false expectations negotiating with destiny. And that's what the fast track actually enables. Sunny, I'm going to carry on with the next one. Okay.
Yeah.
The fourth transmutation is enliven. Enliven means bringing life back into the system. Fear drains aliveness. Even though adrenaline may be flowing really fast when you are in the state of fear, but aliveness, which is more holistic, is draining. Brilliance restores it. So enliven brings that life back into the system, and you're plugged into your brilliance, and aliveness is restored. Now, why is this important? In any area of your life, it could be to do with your health, it could be to do with a relationship, it could be to do with wealth, cash flow, or the state of the world. What fear does, it compresses energy. And we start and get engaged in the journey of simply surviving instead of living our life, which is really the purpose of life. So, this compression of energy that occurs when false expectations appear real and we get into a survival mode, we are actually disconnecting from the core purpose of having life, which is to live it and come alive. So, enliven transmutation is the key to us fulfilling the purpose of our life. Enliven reactivates vitality. Who does enliven impact? Those that are exhausted, feeling exhausted. Those that are disconnected, you know, those that are burnt out. Humans that forgot what joy feels like. So, exhausted leaders, disconnected partners, burnt out creators, humans who forgot what joy feels like. This is the transmutation that you engage with. Even starting with how you can do this simply, you can start by simply acknowledging where fear made life mechanical. Just acknowledge that. The areas where life became mechanical. Then reintroduce aliveness with movement, with gratitude, being in nature. Laughter does it, presence does it, connection does it. Fear survives in numbness. This is a very important one. Fear survives in numbness. Brilliance awakens through aliveness. So, whilst fear is there, while you're still experiencing numbness, you're allowing fear to creep in and creep in and creep in. And when you choose to live your life and experience aliveness in your own way, brilliance awakens. And that it regenerates, regenerates, regenerates. And in the age of brilliance, you're in that attunement. And you will create your own strategies of bringing aliveness back. Sometimes for me, I just sit on my lounge chair, like recliner, and I just put my hands on my navel, and I do that lymphatic breath, just really breathing in and out through my tummy area. And I do it for as long as I feel like doing it, you know. And then I might lie down and just lift my feet up because your lymph nodes, it's a very important communication center, that area. And there are many lymph nodes that are there, and they are connectors. So they connect to every other lymph node, and the lymphatic system starts to move. There's no stress in my breath. It's just, I'm just doing it. And then when I lie down on the ground and I have my feet up against the wall, just hold it there for a few minutes. I actually feel the draining of all of the toxins from the lymph. Be close to a toilet because you'll really want to go to the loo after you do this. But it really does support me in reintroducing aliveness. It's not that much movement, and yet it is a lot. You'll create your own. Going on a gratitude binge is also brings in aliveness. I start my morning by just walking on the grass in my garden. And I have a call with my own spiritual mentor every morning if we can make it. Just hold on. And she's a landscape gardener in New York. So she understands the value of grounding. And so it's nighttime for her, morning time for me. And that's a really beautiful communion with nature. And literally every step I take, I'm so grateful for connecting to the earth. Laughter yoga, which is why it is amazing, because laughter yoga also, when you do the belly laugh, you're activating all of those amazing lymph nodes. And laughter yoga, you can literally do a variety of those. You can have combine actual moving your legs with laughter. You can do shoulders up and down. All of these lymph nodes underneath the breastbone, under the armpits, are amazingly, um, activated. So aliveness. Sunny, is there anything that's showing up for you to share or ask or engage
I
with?
just, I just appreciate the concept of really working the lymph nodes. I think that's so important. And it's super easy. It's one of those health, kind of, I don't want to say tricks, but things that we can do that are so great, like even in the shower, sort of scrubbing all the lymph nodes and stuff. And they're so, but it really is effective, isn't it? I mean, it's a huge difference. Sometimes I feel like there are just so many health things to do that I'm like, what is really, really impactful that's going to make a difference? And I
Yeah.
think lymph node massage and things like that are one of them that really make a difference. So I appreciate that, and also the concept of aliveness. Um, I'm working with many clients right now with books, and I'm noticing in their books that they're saying beautiful things. But I'm feeling the heaviness, even when they're speaking of love, they're speaking of gratitude, and I'm like, "Bleh," I feel like I feel a heavy denseness. And just as you were speaking, I made a note for some of my clients. Add in laughter, add in joy, add in happiness. And so, yeah, so I feel I just wanted to share that because I'm really aware of the aspect of the breath of aliveness, just even the word.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think the thing that I got here in the enliven piece primarily was that we disconnect from fulfilling the actual purpose of life. You heard me say this many times. Life is simply a state in which an organism is breathing. So we've
Mhm.
got the gift of life. What we do with it is up to us, you know? And as humans, we suddenly give so much emphasis to the mind brain. It doesn't even want that. Its only job is to make sure that we survive. That's it. That we don't fall over. And so it is about spatial awareness, is what the mind is about. But we get it to do so much that, it literally saps us of that which is the purpose of life, aliveness. You know?
Yeah, and again with your B book from many years ago, the concept of, mind to do. There's even expression right now as far as activists or, people who want to make a difference with the, voting rights here or, whatever it might be. The expression is what is mine to do, and so that do word comes in again. And there are
Yeah.
activities, yes, I'm not saying that that's not important, but again, the feeling of being and being alive and having some buoyancy in it because things can, like we were speaking about before, the heaviness and the feeling of fear and that is sort of like this journey of how do we make it through, like it's a task every day to get through this and get through that. And again, the when we watch like your grandkids and they're laughing and they're having fun with so many things, it's like, wow, let's play that way. Let's
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Create your tuck box of the enlivening tuck box is a great idea. Quite cool. The important thing to know is that what you think made you feel alive at one point may not be the perfect one in all circumstances. So like writing a journal is no longer aliveness for me, but actually reviewing some of my journals and living out some things that I might have written is. Sometimes it's
Oh,
creating a song. Um, Sometimes it's, you know, coming up with sayings for new t-shirts, whatever, you know. There's such a variety that's available to us to
mhm.
enliven us.
Yes.
That's the key thing. And by the way, because I have been doing this for all of this time, it supported me during the situation that we had in with the Dubai scenario. It really helped me with that. The other piece that I'm really enjoying now is movement. So I'm really creating my own repository of different movements that bring aliveness to me. And I put out this rocket of desire to the universe of becoming in love with fitness, you know, because that was like one of my biggest challenges. So clearly the universe delivered it, but I never met it because I was always avoiding it. Um, there's so much should do, have to, need to. that it never brought in aliveness. It was constricting. And it also had a number of false expectations. If you don't, all of that was there. Um, and I thought, okay, here I am in Thailand. People are doing Thai boxing. Let me have a go with that. And I had my first lesson. I loved it. I loved it. It was amazing, amazing. Clearly, there's so many things you have to think about as you do it, but I really, really completely loved it. And in that journey, because now I had access to something that I was enjoying, I actually have found an amazing personal trainer for strength training. And even, the best part is they are 4 minutes a walk from my place. We live outside of main town, you know. Literally, if I go from the main road to my place, I can walk on the road or I can go through a jungle. And often I choose the jungle. But they live 4 minutes away from us. It's phenomenal, phenomenal. And it's like what I hated about the personal trainer system is you go to the gym and then there are all these machines and then there is a routine that you get into. And it's great when the personal trainer is there, but I was never motivated to do anything myself. This guy, we only do 3 exercises in 1 hour, right? But because we only do 3 exercises, there is such a dramatic improvement in each one from the time I begin to the time I end the set that I'm like, my mind is like, oh my God, this is like, I can't believe I'm doing this, you know? So like
It's
we
so
did
fun.
so fun,
So
really.
fun. It's like that's a difference. And then also you can take all that and it makes your kickboxing rock. You're like, this all makes sense finally. Like this is fun, this is good, this is like
Yeah.
fun, let's do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like squatting, I could barely squat to the chair. Then I started squatting down to the bed. And in one session, I went all the way from that state to when I squat, I had to like hold the floor, push myself up. It was like a big drama to actually being able to do 25 squats all the way down and up. It's like, oh my God, this is me. There's something else that we did yesterday. It's all about enlivening, right? So he goes, I said to him, I get these very strong cramps in my calf muscles. So when I do a lot these exercises, I feel accomplished, but then a few hours later, I get these strong cramps in my calf muscles. So what do we do about that? And he says, oh, I'll tell you why that is. It's because your calves are taking the load of what your butt is supposed to do. So let's work on getting the to reawaken the butt, so it knows, it remembers what it's here to do. So
Like to
to get
kick
that
into
strength back.
gear.
Yeah. So we did so yesterday one of the 3 exercises was just that, the butt stretching and hip opening exercise. And when we did the first set, and it was only a set of two, right? Because it was like crazy. And nothing was opening or moving anywhere. It was just pure, pure unadulterated pain. And it would be like I do these 2 reps, and then there's like 5 minutes rest, no problems. And I was enjoying the rest, and then you come back to it. By the time and we do 10 of these 2 minute reps. By the time I got to the 10th one, it was like I just remembered a different way in which my body was supposed to move. And I remember walking back from there, feeling every part of my lower body, and enjoying that experience of walking. So this is enlivening. I'm really using this portal, this particular transmutation, in a way that gets me to love my body even more.
So were you walking with more sway and more
You,
movement
there's
and stuff?
lightness. There's lightness in my feet, for sure. There's lightness in my feet.
Beautiful.
And I was very, very alert. And I decided to walk on the road. I had the story of walking on the road, cars, motorbikes. I don't like it, but I just walked on the road and it felt really good. So anyway, I mean, enliven is a very big transmutation. And the interesting thing is when you apply this transmutation to fear, which is a very strong energy, the enlivening is equally strong,
Hmm.
you know? And the understanding for me that fear is one of those few energy sources that in an instant impacts 123 trillion cells. So it's like, okay, if I transmutate it to enliven, I suddenly transport life force to 123 trillion cells in a literally blink of an eye. So that was very encouraging to use this particular transmutation. Do it in your way. And this is the other piece. What makes me come alive is not necessarily what makes you come alive. We had a celebration of my son's birthday on the 13th of May. And we asked him, well, we'll do whatever it is that you want. He says, I want to start my day with all of us going to the gym together and doing a gym circuit together, for an hour. Can you imagine? But that is his enlightenment. So yeah, I went for it. It was great. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. You know,
Ah.
and um, he and many other people like that are in the quest of muscle sores when they go to the gym. So, whereas my personal trainer is like, I'm about having more opening and, greater lightness of being. And some muscles may sore, but so what? I want to see a really marked transformation in each session. So here we were in the quest of muscle sore. So it gave all sorts of justification to have carbs and gnocchi and all sorts of stuff. So we said, okay, but we were all enlivened.
Oh.
Bit of a silly banter, but it's an important one, in the context of fear. And by the way, I had my usual Thai boxing lesson from 8 to 9. So I did that, decided to go and do a Thai massage for an hour because we were going to the gym at 11, which is great because Thai massage stretches you in all sorts of ways. So I was actually really super stretched out for the gym. But there was a part of me which was going, this is too much. However, I did say yes to my son starting the day with the gym. Um, so false expectations, you know, disappeared, and I went through this doorway of transmutation into enlivenment. It happens. The important thing is don't make it heavy, by the way, whatever I'm saying, integrate it just like I'm integrating it in whatever it is that I have to do during the day. That's the key thing. Let's look at the fifth transmutation. I lose track of time. Okay, here we go. The fifth transmutation is enlighten. What else could it be? So, enlighten is illumination without denial. It is about seeing clearly, not just as an aha, but as the action to take. That's what enlighten enables. And the action in itself has a lightness of being interwoven and integrated in it. So I'm finding that I don't have to sit back and reflect anymore on anything. You know, I'm able to, like, it's happening live. I do this, I do that, I do that, I do that, I do that. I just like connecting the dots as I go along. So there is a lightness of being. And remember, we went through a whole year, which was the year of illumination, I think 2023, which is insights that you act upon. So we've already got some of that muscle memory of what that looks like, you know? So what I do now is, even if there is any false expectations that is starting to appear to be real, and the fear of vibe is visible to me, I know how it feels like in my body. I also know what enlightened feels like in my body. And sometimes the access to enlightenment is in a lightness of being. And it could be by watching some videos that make me laugh. It could be by just putting my feet in our saltwater pool and just hanging in there for a bit, whatever it could be. You know, you create your own ways. It isn't all about meditating or reading, scriptures. Because remember, you are the creator. You hold the energy signature of the divine within you. You can simply be in a state of prayer and know that that prayer is really honoring the divine in you. So, enlighten has become quite a loaded word, enlightenment. It's like become a ment, and it's become quite heavy, and it isn't. Embodied enlightenment is what the age of brilliance is about for everyone. You will be surprised if you just give yourself 30 seconds at the end of each hour, only 30 seconds. And in those 30 seconds, allow yourself to just choose one insight that you would act on based on what occurred in the last hour. You will be amazed at how many insights you get by the end of the day. You don't have to create a very sacred place or nothing. You're going about your day. You've set a timer, 30 seconds. At the end of the hour, it goes off. What insight did I have in the last hour that I can act upon? You will be amazed. Every hour won't give you an insight that you can act upon, but every hour will deliver an insight. By the end of the day, you'll have a few illuminating insights. Enlightenment is an action. Insights are not always about good behavior. It can also be how certain things triggered you. Why is this transmutation, the enlightened transmutation, why is it important? Because fear thrives in distortion. Enlightenment dissolves distortion through truth. So they literally are like juxtaposed to each other. And that's why this enlighten and access to enlighten through illuminating insights is an important one. Where do you have access to the truth and nothing else but the truth? Where do you have that in the moment? Each of us, whatever the state of mind or circumstance may be, you are living moment by moment. You just are. You just simply have to be present in the moment. You are in your truth. Enlightenment starts dissolving distortion. Who is this particular transmutation for? Those of us who call ourselves seekers of truth. All of us and each of us, as we are the leaders of living our own life, for visionaries, thought leaders, those that are navigating the unknown, and the reality is all of us are. You can do this. How can you do this? You can do this, by acknowledging, again, power tool of acknowledgement, by acknowledging every illusion or everything that any of these, you know, um, non-existent futures that might be there, or any other thoughts that might be there. Just ask what's actually true, not emotionally true, what is factually true. Truth is what reorganizes reality, not your analysis of it. The isness of truth is what reorganizes reality. The moment truth enters, fear loses authority, basically. That's what happens. I mean, listen to this section again, and possibly even again, because this is a big one. If you can crack this code, the moment truth enters, fear loses authority. And in the moment, there is only truth. There is nothing else. Sunny, anything showing up for you to share or talk about?
No, we can keep going.
Okay. And anybody else, anything showing up for you, please share in the chat. Transmutation number 6 is empower. Empower. What does empower actually mean? It means returning humans to choice. I'm very specifically using the term humans because everybody, all other living beings, live through choice anyway. They don't have to sit and do anything. They don't have to return to choice. That's the way that is their modus operandi. And actually, our modus operandi is also choice as humans. And we are choosing when we decide to give our power away by saying we have no choice. We are helpless. Empower returns us to choice. Fear creates helplessness. Now, when you come back to choice, you are in your brilliance, and you can accentuate that with conscious awareness, and that restores authorship. I mean, and I want to just share a secret about my life when I was like getting these epiphanies, uh, which I'm sharing with you. I would say the biggest difference that happened to me when, like Sai says, Bali happened to you all those years ago in 2010 when I went to Bali for 3 weeks and then decided to wind up my interests in London and go back to Bali and landed up living there for 9 years. Really, what happened there, what shifted in those 3 weeks was me reconnecting to my brilliance. And then when I returned to, so then initially I became an author of having complete control about what happens next in my life. As I took that authorship, I started receiving downloads and I started actually authoring these nuggets of wisdom. And as I started reading those, and rather than only being fascinated by them, but actually enlivening myself with them by living them, I started getting stimulated and tantalized by the idea of writing a book. And then I started writing a book. And then as I started writing that book, then the way that book came out into the world actually further strengthened my authorship. and more and more and more books started emerging. And every time I reconnect to this particular transmutation of empower, I just love this authorship piece. So if I'm feeling I'm not having sufficient and avenues for creativity, I will enter this space, you know. And really that's what happened. I decided, how am I going to publish my poetry? David and Helene shared one of their amazing songs with me. And from having been a movie producer, I knew that there is poetry and there is a song. They are not that two completely different things. Every poem is not a song. So I decided to re-remember everything I had learned from some phenomenal music directors. And I took on my book of poetry and started converting the poetry into songs. David and Helene gave me some guidance on how to convert the song into music and then how to produce it online without having to wait for everybody to gather. And then I've been fine-tuning it, the production of songs. Again, that's authorship. Brilliance restores authorship. And like I said, fear creates helplessness. So why is this empower transmutation of fear? I mean, this is an important question. How do this piece that I'm fearful about, how do I transmutate it to empower me? And, give yourself the trust to see what emerges as answers for you. Now, why is it important? Because powerless humans become reactive humans. Empowered humans become regenerative creators. And each of us has the essence of the creator within us. That is the natural state for us to be. When we are reactive humans, we are like literally depleting so much of our vital life force and energy. It's like a running, leaking tap that we become voracious consumers. It could be consumers of time, consumers of materials, consumers of life force, because you're disconnected from who you truly are, which is a regenerative creator. And that's why this empower transmutation is a very big one. Who does it impact? Anyone and everyone who forgot, I can choose again. The reality is you are choosing. Even when you choose to believe that you have no choice, that's your choice. How do you do this? You can actually acknowledge, I gave fear leadership. I abandoned my own throne. Then reclaim that choice. One choice, one action, one declaration. That's all you need to do. So I begin my day with choice in the sense I have my me time. It is sacrosanct. Whatever I'm doing anywhere in the world, I have that time. I have very specific physiological actions that I do, from oil pulling to putting the cold bands around my forehead, my neck, my tummy area, sun gazing wherever I'm able to do that, walking on the earth, talking to Ellen if I can catch that. So I'm literally like going and sitting on my throne as the ruler of my life, sharing like a ripple the aliveness with everyone. Just do one choice, one action with conscious awareness, one declaration. Fear controls borrowed lives. Choice creates flourishing lives. When we use fear as a way, I mean, which is why fear mongering never lasts forever. There isn't a single conqueror that has gone around with the dream of conquering the world using fear as a way. Nobody has succeeded, nobody, because those lives are borrowed lives. And as soon as they are able to actualize, they leave. If you actually spread choice and give people the choice, give yourself the choice, flourishing lives is what occurs. Flourishing lives are fulfilling the purpose of their life. They are lives that are living, they are alive and living and sharing. And flourishing never occurs by yourself. It's something that you share. Naturally, you collaborate, you co-create, coexistence starts to thrive and regenerate. And this scenario transforms you, transforms your relationships, transforms your work, your business, your impact, transforms the world, all at the same time. So using this particular transmutation of empower, because it is associated with fear to empower, you have that powerful rocket force, rocket fuel of fear that is enabling the empowerment. And you direct the empowerment to your resolve, to your intention, combined with the energy of enlightening and enliven, you're set. Sunny, over to you to conclude our session today. We will continue next week.
Thank you so much for all of that. And so much I received out of this. And one action step that I feel so strongly about is the 30 seconds each hour. You know, the young people have this thing where they say, you know, they're meant to get up every 15 minutes because we're at the computer so long, you know, for hours, and they set their alarm and jump around or do whatever. And I'm thinking, this, you know, every hour on the hour. I try to drink a glass of water every hour on the hour because I kind of forget sometimes. And I'm going to add this to it. And it's easy. It's like, okay, it's the stroke of ding, 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 and to evaluate whatever that may be. So I really, really appreciate that. All of these words, aliveness, enlightenment, aliveness, all of that give me space in this sort of denseness I've been feeling. And so I've just even been writing down every word that feels like breath and space and joy and fun
Yeah.
and, you know, to
Yeah.
add into my denseness because I have a bit of it going on, I will admit freely. So thank you, thank you. And I'm so grateful that so many of us have been able to join today. I know we have busy schedules and we're in all different time zones all over the world. And so it's so powerful and fascinating that we do all join. And so, Minu, next week we are going to be carrying on with this, yes, and we will be,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
yes,
Have a
thank you,
great
thank you, thank
weekend, everyone. Thank you. Namaste.
you.
I complete our meeting. Sorry.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.